George Washington, the first President of the United States, set the foundation for the nation's future. Born in 1732, he led America to independence and became a symbol of unity. As Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army, Washington's leadership was crucial to winning the Revolutionary War. His daring crossing of the Delaware stands as one of his most famous moments. After the war, Washington presided over the Constitutional Convention, ensuring the creation of a strong government based on democratic principles. He set the precedent of peaceful transition by stepping down after 2 terms, cementing his legacy as a leader who valued the republic over personal power. In the depths of the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln faced his greatest test, not just to save the Union but to challenge the very institution of slavery. With the war tearing the nation apart, Lincoln understood that emancipation wasn't just a moral issue, it was a strategic necessity. On January 1, 1863, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, a bold step toward ending slavery. But freedom wouldn't come easily. Though he would not live to see its full impact, Lincoln's decision reshaped the nation's future, proving that one act of courage can change the course of history. When we think of U.S. presidents, names like Washington and Lincoln come to mind. But what about those who led in quieter times, away from the spotlight? Take Millard Fillmore. His presidency saw the controversial Compromise of 1850, attempting to balance free and slave states, but his legacy has largely faded. Or Franklin Pierce, a man whose indecisiveness during the Kansas-Nebraska Act deepened the nation's divide over slavery, yet he's barely remembered today. These forgotten leaders may not have shaped the country in bold strokes, but their decisions left marks on the pages of history. Forgotten, but not gone. The power of the U.S. presidency has evolved dramatically since the founding of the nation, beginning with the Constitution drafted in 1787. Abraham Lincoln expanded presidential power during the Civil War, asserting authority to preserve the Union and issuing the Emancipation Proclamation. In the 1930s, Franklin D. Roosevelt further broadened executive power with the New Deal, responding to the Great Depression and reshaping the role of government. Today, presidents navigate complex global challenges, from national security to healthcare, continuing to redefine their roles in an ever-changing world. Throughout American history, several presidents have been assassinated, leaving deep scars on the nation and altering its course. Abraham Lincoln was shot by John Wilkes Booth in 1865 at Ford's Theater, just days after the Civil War ended, plunging the nation into mourning. In 1881, President James Garfield was shot by Charles Gutierrez. He lingered for 11 weeks before succumbing to his wounds, highlighting healthcare's limitations of the time. John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas in 1963, a shocking moment that forever changed America's perception of safety and leadership. These tragic events remind us of the fragility of democracy, prompting reflection on the values of peace and unity in leadership. In 2008, history was made. Barack Obama was elected the 44th President of the United States, becoming the first African American to hold the office. Obama's campaign was built on hope and change. He inspired millions with his message of unity and the belief that America could overcome its deepest divisions. As president, Obama enacted sweeping reforms, most notably the Affordable Care Act, extending healthcare to millions of uninsured Americans. Obama's presidency wasn't just historic, it redefined what was possible in American politics, leaving a lasting legacy of progress and possibility. At just 42, Theodore Roosevelt became the youngest president in U.S. history, stepping into office after McKinley's assassination, determined to lead with vigor. Roosevelt's boldness was evident in his military service. He led the Rough Riders to victory at San Juan Hill during the Spanish-American War, cementing his reputation as a fearless leader. As president, he took on corporate monopolies, earning the title Trustbuster. His efforts to regulate big businesses reshaped American economic policies. Roosevelt's legacy includes conservation. He established national parks and forests, emphasizing the importance of preserving America's natural beauty for future generations. Richard Nixon rose to power in 1968, promising to restore law and order amid social unrest. His campaign capitalized on the frustrations of a divided nation. In 1972, Nixon made history by visiting China, opening diplomatic relations and easing tensions of the Cold War. His efforts won him global acclaim. But the Watergate scandal soon shattered his legacy. The break-in and subsequent cover-up revealed deep corruption and abuse of power. In August 1974, facing impeachment, Nixon became the first president to resign, leaving behind a legacy tainted by scandal and distrust. Franklin D. Roosevelt took office in 1933, with the nation crippled by the Great Depression. His message was clear: hope and action. Through bold programs like the New Deal, Roosevelt aimed to lift the country out of economic despair, creating jobs, stabilizing banks, and reforming industries. Then came World War II. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, FDR rallied the nation once again, declaring war and leading the Allies to victory. Roosevelt faced some of the toughest challenges in U.S. history, leaving behind a legacy of resilience, leadership, and unity. In October 1962, President John F. Kennedy faced the gravest threat to U.S. security: Soviet missiles stationed in Cuba, just 90 miles from Florida. With the nation on edge, Kennedy decided on a naval blockade to prevent further shipments of military equipment to Cuba, a bold move to avoid war. On October 22, he addressed the nation, informing Americans of the crisis and emphasizing that the U.S. would not tolerate any threats to its security. Through tense negotiations, diplomacy prevailed. After 13 days, the Soviets agreed to remove the missiles, averting nuclear disaster.